Good morning. We're going to start Unit 2, Part 1, Linear Equations. Please follow along in your notes packet and take notes. We are going to start with Lesson 2-1, Writing Equations. The objective for today is to be able to take a math equation and write it into a sentence, and also to take a sentence and write it into a math equation. So before we get started, we need to review some words that mean specific math operations. And so we're going to start with addition. Words that mean to add include add, sum, increase by, together, more, and plus, and combined. One that I really want to focus on right now is the concept of the word sum. So anytime you use the word sum, we are going to say the sum of, and then you're going to tell me the two things you want to add together. So the sum of a number x, then you use the word and 4. So that means I want to add x and 4 together. So I just want to talk about how to use that word. For subtraction, we have subtract, difference, decrease by, minus, and take away. Difference is used the same way as sum. So whenever you want to use the word difference, you are going to say the difference of and then maybe we have 10 and 3. So that means you're going to take the difference, or you're going to subtract 3 from 10. So 10 minus 3. For division, we have quotient, shared, per, ratio, or divided by. Quotient is used the same way as sum and product of. You always say the quotient of, and then you'll tell me what two things you're dividing. And then the order that we say these in is the order that you need to write them in. So if we say the quotient of a number y and 8, that means we are taking y divided by 8 because the y came first. And then last but not least, we have multiplication. Multiplication, we have product, times, of, multiple, and twice. So product is used just like sum, difference, and quotient. So we would always say the product of, and then you would tell me the two things separated by the word and. Of is kind of special because of is typically used with a fraction. So if I ever say 3, like something like 3/4 of, 3/4 of x, that means I'm taking 3/4 times x. And notice I did not use a multiplication symbol in between those. We no longer do that. That constant 3/4 is connected to the variable x by multiplication. We do not write a multiplication sign anymore. And then of course twice. Twice means to multiply by 2. We could also use triple, which would mean to multiply by 3. So those are some ones to watch out for as well. And then we have equals. Some words that mean equals are is, are, were, will be, gives, totals. And then there's one I would like to add. One that sometimes is used is when you see the same as. So if you ever see the words the same as, that also means that we are talking about equals. Then we have parenthesis words, which means we would need to include a set of parentheses. That would be times the difference of, twice the sum of, plus the difference of. And so the reason we need parentheses on those is if we do times the difference of, if I look at that, let's say we have 2 times the difference of. X and 3. So I want to take 2 times the difference, meaning I want to take 2 times the answer to the subtraction problem of x and 3. If I don't put the parentheses and I just write 2x minus 3, that's not saying 2 times the difference, that's saying 2 times x. And so without that parentheses, the entire problem is changed. Then we have turnaround words. Turnaround words mean they're written backwards and we kind of have to turn them around. So whenever we use the word than, like less than or greater than, we need to turn that statement around. So if I say 3 less than x, that's technically a turnaround, meaning that I want to take 3 away from x. So the x actually comes first, and then I subtract 3 from that. So that's how we would use the turnaround word. So now we're ready for some examples. We're going to translate each sentence into an equation. And so we're going to start with letter A, which says a number B. So we're going to take a number B. I don't know what that number is, but we're going to let it be represented with B. And B is being divided by 3. So we're going to divide B by 3. We use the division bar now. We do not use your old school division symbol from elementary. So we have B divided by 3 is equal to, means we are going to use an equal sign. So it is now an equation because we have an equal sign. And then we have 6 less than C. Less than does mean we are going to subtract, but than is a turnaround word, and so we need to make sure we turn around the 6 and the C. So we don't want 6 minus C, we really want C minus 6, and then you are finished writing your equation. Letter B says 7 times a number n squared. So we know we're taking 7 and then we are times, which means to multiply. So 7 times a number n squared. Now what does squared mean? Squared means that number is going to be multiplied to itself. Multiplied to itself. So n is being multiplied to itself. So remember from your previous math classes, anytime you have something multiplied to itself, we use an exponent of 2. So when it says 7 times a number n, it's not just the number n, it's the number n that has been multiplied to itself because n is squared. Then we have is, so we now have an equation because that's an equal sign. And then we have 5 times the difference of. So we know we're going to be taking 5 and multiplying it because it says times, and we're multiplying it to a subtraction problem, which means we need a set of parentheses. I want to take 5 times the answer to a subtraction problem because it says the word difference. And then our last statement here tells us what we're subtracting. We're subtracting K and M. And then for our third example, we have example C. Example C says 3 less than a number B. So remember, less than is a turnaround word, and it also means to subtract. So we're not taking 3 minus B, we're taking B minus 3, and then it says that is divided by 4. So we're taking B minus 3 and dividing that entire thing by 4. Is means equal, so we now have an equation. And then it says 7 more than 3 times B. So we know that more means to add, but when it's coupled with more than, that makes it a turnaround word. So I'm going to be adding 7 to something. Well, what am I adding 7 to? I'm adding 7 to 3 times B. So 3 B. I don't write our multiplication sign anymore in Algebra 1. And then for our last set, we are going to write sentences for each equation. Now, please know there's more than one way to write each of these. So not one way is correct, because if you notice our list of words, there are multiple words that mean to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. So we're going to look at this first one, which says 12. So we have 12. And then you need a word that means to subtract. So we have 12, and you can simply use minus, 12 minus, and then we're subtracting 12 with 2x, 2 times x, or you could say the product of 2 and x. And then we have an equal sign, so I can say is, and then we have a -5. So there's more than one way to do that, but that's just one way. Letter B. Okay, so we have that y times itself. So when we say that is y squared. So we have a number y squared, because it has been multiplied to itself. That's why there's the exponent of a 2 there. Plus, and then we're adding that to 3 times a number x. You could say equals, the same as, it's equal to a number w. And last but not least, we have C. Again, we see that number multiplied to itself. So we're going to say that that is a number a squared. This is multiplied to itself and has the exponent of 2. Then you need, maybe let's, instead of using plus this time, let's use increased by, and it increased by the product, which means to multiply, the product of 3 and b is the same as, would mean equals, and we'll say the quotient. Quotient means to divide, the answer to a division problem. The quotient of a number c and 6. So this is how you translate a math equation to a sentence, or a sentence to a math equation.